Hey guys, so what I'm going to show you here is how to make Death Star ice ball or any other comparable ice ball perfectly clear, which is better for drinking and frankly looks amazing. This is a standard ice ball mold. Other kinds of molds could be things like this. But I'll be showing the, so you've got golf balls, I'll be showing the Death Star because that's excellent. I've tried a lot of things and here's the first thing that has worked, which I prepared earlier. So I've got 4 set up in here. I took this one out because I thought they were ready and they weren't, so I had to put it back in and it got ejected by the power of the ice freezing around it, so this one may be a failure or may not. We'll see when I get that one open, but we'll start with one of these ones and I'll explain the process for doing this afterwards. So, this is what it'll look like if you get it close to right. There you go. There's a slight bit of fracturing at the top from where I pulled it out of the pot, and from a little bit of leftover air that's pushed its way through towards the escape hole. But the top looks pretty brilliant. See your little ray gun there. So this is what you want if you're going to be making these ice balls. Check some of these other ones. Alright, so this one's even better. Look at that. Flawless. Looks just as good as it does in the pictures when you buy this stupid thing online. So if you want them to look like that, follow some of these tips. It's quite labour intensive to make them clear like this. It takes more than 24 hours for this to freeze to the extent that you can pull these bad boys out. So what you're going to want to do is probably get more than one of these molds, make more than one at a time, and then store them in plastic bags. I haven't tried storing them in plastic bags yet. If you store them in the freezer, all these lines will all blur together as more ice accumulates outside of it, and you won't have a very good result. So you want to store these in plastic bags. You can probably store more than one. I haven't tried yet. I can post an update about that, but this is what you want. If you're buying these molds, you want them to look like this, not like the alternative. So an ice ball that is this solid with no fractures is also going to last a lot longer in a drink. It won't melt as quickly. Now this one I pulled out too early. This one pulled out too early. It does seem to have frozen solid anyway. So when you pull it out too early, you can fill it up again, because when you pull it out, all the excess water is going to run out the bottom or top, depending on how you look at it. So you want to fill it back up, and you put your thumb over it and try and get it back in the hole. So if you got it here, you put it as close as you can to the hole and just spin it down. When it's not completely frozen, that'll be a bit easier to do. And it shouldn't give enough time for air to enter, but if you want to be sure, like I did with this one, I added more water to this so that when I put it down here, it was submerged. So when I take my thumb off, no air is going to enter that hole, and you can put it down. So the trick is that when you put this upside down, have it freeze from the bottom to the top, because the bottom's at the top, and you want to freeze it top down to get clear ice. That way when it freezes up here, the ice will take up more space than the water will get pushed out of the top of the mold, which gets pushed into the pot, and that way pressure doesn't build up inside the mold, which will cause fractures in the ice, and it can actually pop the mold open as well and ruin it completely. Let's have a look. So I've tried to salvage this after the fact by refilling it, and it's turned out pretty good. Anyway, so if you do pull one of them out a bit too early, just refill it, pop it back in, and you should have a salvageable example. Now if you freeze it with just the mold, put the mold in the freezer like this and wait for it to freeze, water will pop out the top, you get a little waterfall down the side, and things like this will happen. The bottom is expanded and fractured, and then it's been left in the freezer. So the top looked brilliant when it was finished, but now it's all just run together, and you can't even tell that it's meant to be anything anymore. So that's what happens if you just leave it in the freezer, not in a bag. So if you want to make a bulk of these for a party or whatever, you want to be storing them properly, or the effect is not quite as impressive. As for how to do this, what you want is a big container you can put in the freezer. You need it to be quite broad to fit all of the molds you want. It can't be too thin, even if you want to do only one. So I tried with this jug, but it freezes too quickly from the outside inwards, and it exerts pressure on the mold, and what you'll find is that the top here will freeze too quickly while there's still water on the inside. So you want a big pot. It acts as a heat sink and causes the molds to freeze slowly, because that's the two things you want when you want to make clear ice. You want to freeze it from the top down, and you want it to freeze slowly. Now with these molds, the third thing to think of is that you need to let the pressure escape somewhere, because if it just freezes inside the mold and the top gets plugged, the pressure will just crack the Death Star in the middle. When it comes out, you'll have a split like straight down the middle, and if you just took that and cracked it on the pot, it'd split in half like an egg. So that's quite useless. So you want a big pot like this, some kind of water reservoir, fill it up with water, and you get your mold, and you want to fill that up with water. And what I've set up here inside it, you can see like a lattice framework with sticks, and I've used some wire. All you really need is a way to suspend these bad boys upside down with only a little bit of the mold in the water. I've tried all the way up to here and above, so that only a little bit was poking above the water. What happens then is, as the water in the pot freezes, it pushes sideways against the mold and it actually pops this open. So what you want is only a little bit of the top poking down into the water. That'll allow this to freeze quicker as well while the water is still liquid, and ensures that the water inside can still come out the bottom. So I've hooked up a little lattice framework here, and as you can see, the water only goes up to about there, and for the three that did work, that turned out to be pretty perfect. Now you don't have to make it with sticks, obviously you can make it with just wire or strings or anything. But probably not anything that's made fully of metal, unless you use wire, which is quite thin, because you don't want to conduct heat from where it's cold down into the middle and make the water freeze underneath your molds. So that's one of the reasons I've used wood here, because it ensures that the water will only freeze from the top and the outside, and it'll leave the inside liquid for as long as possible. So yeah, if you want beautiful liquid balls, beautiful clear balls, sorry, like this one here, then yeah, that's what you want to do. Lovely. I'll be trying this approach as well with probably these two moulds later on. A little bit harder because all of these areas here are going to want to trap air, and I think the freezing process won't be quite as smooth with all this stuff in the way, and it's going to be very hard to plug all the holes as you put it into the water, not to mention that that's going to leave air everywhere in here. So I think what you would have to do in that case is fill up the pot and make sure you've got a pot big enough so that you can submerge your mould, get it full of water, and flip it over without getting water inside. So it's probably going to have to be at least this deep, which this pot isn't even that deep. So exactly how to do this is going to be an ongoing process. But with these guys, it's pretty easy. The hard part is knowing what to do, actually doing it in this case. Not very difficult. Now bear in mind, a pot this size in the freezer I have here took somewhere past 36 hours, I think, to freeze. I didn't have time to check it this morning, so I don't know if it was ready. But at 24 hours, I pulled out the one that was half frozen, and it was frozen up to about there. So maybe 2/3 frozen. Another 8 hours would probably not have been enough, but another 12 might have been. So if you want to check them after 24 hours, because you can still salvage it, or leave it for at least 36 just to be sure. With a pot this size, pretty standard pot size, you can get some pretty good results. Thank you.